So today, guys, I want to show my Hitachi C15FB. It's a 15-inch heavy-duty miter saw. I am the original owner, and I bought this brand new on November 13th, 1987. And today, April the 27th, 2025, as I do this video, that makes this saw 13,681 days, or 37 years, 5 months, and 15 days, or 449 months and 15 days. Now, when I bought this, the cost of the saw without tax was $399, and I did buy an extra clamp, which I'll show later when I go over this saw. That extra clamp was $26.70. And here you see the receipt for the miter saw, the C15FB, $399. Tax was $25.86. The total was, well, then there was another thing for $32. I'm not sure what that was. I didn't make note of that. And then the total for that sale was $456.86. Shows that I paid $270 cash and $186 on my MasterCard. And here you see my original receipt. It's kind of faded. You can see where it says this is for the vise, 15-inch Hitachi. You see 2670, and the part number was 988897. And I still have the manual. And the warranty card. Came with a 1-year limited warranty. And here's page 2 of the manual. I took and cut out of the catalog, or a photocopy, and put in the spec stuff here and then also down here. So it says here that it cuts up to 57 degrees right or left, with positive stops at 0, 15, 22.5, 30, and 45, both right and left. And then down here it gives the capacities. They had a C10FB, a C10FA, and then the one I have is a C15, and the blade diameter 15-inch. It gives the capacities here. Maximum cutting 90 degrees, 4 3/4 by 7 and 9/30 seconds. At 45, 4 3/4 by 5 and 15/30 seconds. No load speed of 3,400 RPM. 1-inch arbor. It says the weight was 55 pounds. The maximum horsepower in this beast is 2.7 horsepower. So I've recently put this up for sale on the Facebook selling page. I haven't used it in a while. It's an excellent saw, and I took very good care of it. Obviously, it's a huge saw with a 15-inch blade. Now this particular one is just your standard. It's not carbide tipped, but I do have carbide tipped blades. And again, it's a 1-inch arbor. And to change this, the guard doesn't move. This stays stationary. So you take that off. And then over here is an arbor lock. So you would spin the blade. Let me spin it here. And it would catch right there. You can see where it caught, and that allowed you to lock the arbor so that it wouldn't move, and then you use the supplied wrench they gave you to loosen it up. Now here's the wrench they gave you, 17 millimeters. This is the original end. Then I took and brazed a 17 millimeter deep Craftsman socket on it. So now I've got the option of going like this to spin it on, and then I can use it like this to break it. I've got the longer leverage there to break it. And then I attached it with a chain because you know how that goes. You're going to a job and you lose it. So this way, that's always with the tool. And as to be expected, it comes with a bag to collect your sawdust, which this does produce a lot. So to lock the head down in for storage, or when you're moving it job to job, you've got that knob there. You just push down on the head of the saw. That will lock in there. And that keeps the head of the miter box intact. And here's the scale. And you know, I never had to adjust this. When it came from the factory, I checked all, you know, the 90 and 45s, and they were spot on. My 22.5, so my other ones. And here's your locking handle. So the way this works is it has those click stops that I mentioned earlier. Then, when you're in between, you look at your where the indicator mark is, and then to lock it down, it basically was friction from this handle. The nut would go up against a piece of metal, so the piece of metal that the bolt was going up against went up against the base, like that. Alright guys, so just to show you the click stops, very positive, very snug. We're at 45, 30, you can hear it go in, no slop. 22.5, 15, very nice. Works out real well. And what that does is, by having that piece of metal there, it doesn't do damage to the base here, plus it doesn't walk because it's pushed up against that piece of metal. If that piece of metal wasn't there, you'd have issues with this adjustment walking on you, so it will not do that. The next thing we're going to look at are these extension arms. It came with 2 of them, and there's obviously 2 holes in the side. Comes out like that, and you'll notice that I have it in between. I'll show you what these handles are for. I made sure these handles were wide enough so that if I had a narrower piece of wood, I wouldn't have to take these handles off. But if I had something wider, I would take these off. But we'll go over that. And then on the back side is where this first bolt is what you would use to tighten down that extension arm, and it used the same 17-inch wrench that came with it. Next, we're going to take a look at the clamps that go in like this. And then they've got the bolt down here that tightens it, and obviously same 17 millimeters. Now this clamp's not going down all the way because, as you can see, I have this bolt all the way in, so it does go down all the way to the bottom. Now, one thing I wasn't sure of, but looking back at the manual, I can see, you'll notice that, remember I said I bought an extra clamp for the other side, and I wasn't sure which one was the original, but looking at the manual, the rectangular one here, fully rectangular, longer, is the one that shows in the manual. So this had to be the original. And then why this is different, because it was all done at the same time, I'm not sure why, but in any event, there's the extra clamp. Now this was for a plastic guard, which I took off. I have it, it's up in the attic, and it'll go with it when I sell, but I didn't put it on. I being that I use this myself, you know, can mistakes happen? Yeah, but to me guards are more of a pain in the ass sometimes. Obviously they're there for a purpose, but it's off. This was to lift up the guard. And then here is your handle, and then your switch. And it did have a safety here. You can see it's got that knob that's got to be pushed in. If that's not pushed in, the switch won't work. So you got to push it in, then it'll come on. And that's a nice feature. I like that. I think those are really good, so that you don't accidentally do something stupid. Another thing you can see here is it had, I believe they call it like a chip guard. I never used them. I probably have it upstairs with the guard that came with it. But there was this, I believe it was like a plastic nylon, whatever, that would go in here so that when you came down, you wouldn't have such a wide slot. But I never used it. I never found the need for it. And one of the mistakes I made, I remember doing this actually, I remember the actual job that I was on, and for some damn reason, I don't know how I did it, this got into the blade. I was doing work for a lady at her home, and it blew her breaker, and I just went ahead and pieced it back together and never had a problem. Let's take a general overall look at the condition of this unit, which is really excellent. We're going to take a look at some that are on the internet that I was looking at so I could determine a price for the sale of mine. We're going to see what condition they're in. Now there is up here a little bit of rust, a little bit of dings, some rust, and along in here. But overall, perfect, very good condition for 30 some years old. And you'll notice the base is very good. The aluminum surfaces, this surface, really in good shape. Something else that I did so it wouldn't have such a hard feel, is I got some of this, I'm not sure where I got it, it's some kind of a rubber. So this is a stop that when it goes up, you can adjust the height here of the saw, the head. And so what I did is I glued that on, epoxied that on, so when it came up, it didn't have such a hard feel, a hard noise. It would hit that, it'd be soft. Let's take a look at that. See how it hits? Before it would hit and just, I don't know, it bothered me. And with that like that, much better. And I think better for this metal, instead of metal and metal hitting like that. Alright, so they do provide a handle to lift up in approximately the center of gravity of this this unit. But here's my question. In all my saws, and I've had, over the time, I've had plenty of different power miter boxes and even hand miter boxes. Why would you want to lift this up from here and have all that weight hanging from this pivot point? And my thought is it can only do possible issues and misalignment with with your adjustments. So I didn't like that, and what I elected to do was take a wooden base, 3/4 and 3/4, so 1.5 inches, and then where these mounting places were, I located underneath and drilled a hole in the first one here so that I could access the bolt, tighten it down, and it would be flush. So this furred out this piece so that I could put the bolt in there and it wouldn't be protruding. So this surface is all flat. That allowed me to make up these handles, which are no tools required. They come off very easy, and I'll show you. They're just out of pipe fittings. I think it's 3/4 inch unions, 90s black pipe, and I just brazed it all together. Some floor flanges. So we'll take a look at that. So now I have black tape on here and black tape down here, because when you take this off, this section stays, obviously this comes off. So when I made these, you may not be exact. Both of these are going to be a little bit different because there's screw threads. And so I wanted to make sure when I put this together that the same handle, same sides, black tape and black tape would go together, and I wouldn't have an issue putting it back on. Likewise, We have green tape, and green tape means that when I take this handle off and the other one, I can't make a mistake. I know where this goes and what side. So as shown earlier, this would stay, and if I didn't need to take these off because the wood was narrower, then I would leave this, and then I could also use my extensions. But if the wood piece was wider or it was taller, 4x4 or something like that, and it would be in the way, then these have to come off. So let's see how easy those come off. They're all hand tight, basically just like this. Comes right off. You can see it's unions that fit in here. Put it back on. Start one. Start the other one. Then what I'll do is I'll just wiggle it. And there it is. There's your handle. That's simple. And it makes this saw so much better to use. And again, I think these are needed so that you don't lift this. This is a heavy damn saw. Of course, this makes it even heavier. And so this eliminates me from having to lift it up by the handle. Now here you see 3 15-inch blades in original packaging from Hitachi. Now, this one and this one, they're brand new, unused, carbide tipped. Here's another carbide tipped. This one has been used. The carbide tip blades hold up very well. You always let the blade do the work. You don't ever force the tool into the work. You let the blade do the work, bring it down, let it cut. If it's not cutting right, you got a dull blade. Then I have, I believe, down in the basement where I have some other blades, or my blade stored. I have I think another non-carbide tip blade too. And so here you can see how these are pretty cool. They come around like this so that you can close the the cardboard box to the blade. And then inside is your blade. Now there's oil on it to keep it from rusting, and this is in the original packaging. I keep them like that. Now one thing I want to do before we get to listening to this saw run and then telling you what I've got it up for sale for, I thought I'd show you what some of the people are selling for. Now here's showing a brand new one for $977.76, but it says discontinued product. And this is from Tool Marts. Here we've got one on eBay selling for $663.10. And it looks to be in a little bit of rough condition. Certainly not as good as mine. Nowhere near. Look at that. Although they've got good pictures, which is a good thing, but look how rough this is. And that's what they want for it, $663.10. Now, boys and girls, here's one that says excellent condition, works great, $1,200 or best offer. Okay. And it doesn't look like it's in very good shape. Look at that. Again, they're asking $1,200. What they'll get for it, I don't know. Rough shape. Another one, $1,100. and it doesn't have the knob. No blade and no knob. And that knob would be the handle that you turn to tighten it, which you see down here is not in the picture. And it doesn't say anything about extensions or clamps, so I don't know. Another eBay item, $886.65. And guys, this thing is in some rough shape. It does say our best offer. Now here's something from eBay, 854. It's the FC version. Rough, real rough. And here we see from Northern Tool, this item is no longer available. At replacementparts.com, you can get parts for this. So I found a video on YouTube of a place that is selling it. This is in really good shape. And if we go down here, we'll see that it's sold on eBay for $1,150. And it just says that they're keeping the video up here for future use if somebody wants it for reference. But so there they are, $1,150 this sold for. And so here is my listing, and I have it up for $550, which after doing some research, I feel for the condition and what other ones were asking and selling for, that I feel that this is very good. And that does come with a blade. It's not carbide tipped. And you'll see that it says I do have 2 new carbide blades at an additional $140 for both. So the 2 of those carbide tip blades, $140 for both, and that would be additional to the $550 that you saw, the saw that I showed, with all the stuff that I showed it with, and the regular saw blade. Alright guys, so what would a review be without listening to this beast run? So let's take a listen. Now did you notice that when I stop the saw, the brake, when it activates, the power pushes down, it forced it down a little bit? Let's do that again. You see how it just naturally wanted to jerk the head down a little bit. Love that sound.